Welcome back to our channel, guys. We're Richie and Laura, and you join us as we complete the first leg of our European tour. We're travelling Europe in our self-build camper Kevin with our two sons Frankie and Freddie, dog Luna and rabbit Hopsy.
We're going to be doing a question and answer this week as we have a bit of a slight problem in Bengal Caves, which you'll find out in later vlogs. So we've decided to do a few questions and answers that we've had during our time abroad, and it might help someone out. So we're going to answer our first most top question that we get asked a lot, which is park ups and how we find them. We find them on an app called Park for Night. Basically you go on there, search in the area that you are in, and then you can decide which one you need to go to. There's a few on there that are like wild camping spots, campsites, service stations, laundrettes. There's a variety of things.
There is also other apps like Search for Sites, which we've also got, but we prefer to use Park for Night.
There isn't as many on that are Search for Sites. It's more mainly for the UK, isn't it? So the campsites that we go on, we've only had to use campsites when we're in cities, mainly because of the bad reputation that cities hold. So we normally go on there for a safer option.
Just to keep Kev safe, that's the main idea. Places like Barcelona, Valencia, Seville, we've always been worried about parking him up and leaving him. So yeah, we always choose campsites when we're around the cities.
It also makes it a lot easier with having a bigger vehicle, because the main cities are a lot smaller to drive down, so it makes it a lot easier.
So the majority of park ups are free parking that we found. So obviously they don't include services, but it's nice to be away from the crowds, not all squished up on a campsite. And you have so many more options. You're a lot more free when you choose the wild camping spots.
And then normally for us it's about 3 to 4 days that we need water and to empty the toilet, so we'll then use Park for Night to go on there, find a service spot that will allow us to fill up water. Normally they're campsites or motorhome services, and it's normally between €3 to €5 that you can fill up with your water, empty the toilet, do the grey waste.
That's in Spain. In France they're a lot more catered towards van life and motorhomes, and a lot of the airs are actually free, but this Q&A is about Spain. So yeah, you're looking anywhere, we have had free ones, but you're looking anywhere between €3 and €5, which is not too bad. As far as laundry goes, it also lists laundry on Park for Night app, and all the local laundrettes. And in Spain, they actually have them, a lot of them are in petrol stations, which is quite handy. So there's plenty of parking. We just go park up for an hour, get the washing done, get it dried, back in the van, and we're good to go.
They're also in Carrefours and Intermarchés in Portugal, so you can go and do your shopping, come back out and your washing's done. Another question was, is there quite a lot of no motorhome signs? For Spain, it's not, there isn't as many. It's more because we're out of season. A lot of the signs say that between like April to October, I think it is, that you can't park on some of the spots. But because we're out of season, we're finding that it's a lot easier.
I think Spain's fairly lenient towards it anyway, from what I can make out.
Yeah. And then obviously Portugal, they have a rule where you're not allowed to park wild camping anywhere. But because we're out of season, we're finding that it's not been a problem, and there isn't many signs up to say, is there, that you can't park there?
No, it's not been too bad. There's a few down small roads nearer to the coast. We've only travelled the southern coast of Portugal, so yeah, we can't speak for the rest of it. But on the southern coast, I don't think they like it as much right on the beach. But if you come away a little bit, we haven't had no problems so far. And in Spain, we was there for 7 or 8 weeks. And like I say, apart from Valencia, Barcelona, Seville, and Calpe actually, we haven't been on a campsite.
What we would say is that if you haven't got that gut feeling of it feeling right, then move on somewhere else. That's what we found, doesn't it?
We haven't been moved on from a park up yet. We've chose to leave one late at night, just because we was a little bit on edge and we weren't sure if we would get moved on. But yeah, so far so good. We haven't been moved on once, and we've had some real nice park ups as well. Far better than staying on any campsites, that's for sure.
One top tip is don't park near any barbecues, however late of night it is, because they barbecue at any time of day.
So when we go to attractions, a lot of places do have car parks, or if we go into a market, for example, when you're in a town centre where it's busy, and places like Malaga was hectic. It was like driving in London. There's not loads of parking, so we find ourselves parking out the way a little bit and walking in. And like I say, with the cities, we'll park on a campsite, and half the time we have to get public transport into the cities.
It just makes life so much easier, because there's always tight little roads that you can't get to in a big vehicle, and it just stresses us out. So
it does get stressful trying to find parking spots at attractions sometimes.
Yeah.
So one bit of advice, don't do it when you're hungry, because that's when we argue like cat and dog. If we're hungry and trying to find a park up, it never goes well.
Someone's asked as well if we've had to use our EHU hookup. We haven't used it the whole time we've been here. We put it in just before we left because we was in a campsite in the UK and it was freezing. There was no sun.
That was from the middle of November to the middle of December, so there was no sun, not many light hours in the day either, and our battery was struggling a little bit then. But since we've been here, we use a lot of power as well, don't we? The boys, they've got their Nintendo Switches, so they're getting charged daily. The phones are getting charged.
I use my straighteners on occasions.
The laptop, a speaker, the lights, obviously, the Max Air fan.
The fridge.
Yeah, the fridge. So we're not shy on power, and we just use what needs to be used, but always by sort of 2 o'clock we've always got a nice full battery again. So yeah, with about 300 watts of solar, and I think our battery's about 260 amp hours, that's enough to keep us more than topped up and give us plenty for what we need. We don't have to face park in the sun really, as long as we're not sheltered by trees. We've had one park up which we absolutely loved, but we was covered in by trees, so we had to move from that spot just because the solar wasn't topping the battery up as much as we would have liked. One thing I will say that's important, as well as having a decent solar panel set up and a decent battery, probably more important is the solar controller. It's definitely worth investing in a decent solar controller. You can get ones which are combined with battery to battery chargers. That's what we've got. I think our brand is Absol, so it's not even the top brand. Weren't a cheap one, but it seems very good for what we need, and we've had no problems with it at all so far.
Before we come as well, we was toying with the idea of getting an awning. They're quite a lot of money for what our camper would have needed, just because of the length of it. But we found that since we've been out here, we actually haven't needed it. So we're kind of glad that we didn't get it now, didn't we?
Really glad, because it was nearly £700 for the size we needed. And it was just before we was coming away. We was thinking, should we get it, should we not? And we thought, right, let's just see what it's like. We'll go and see what it's like, save the money, because no doubt it will come in handy for something else. And we're glad we did, because we've not had many spots wild camping where you can set it up, and that's a big thing about wild camping, so that it stays the way it is and that there isn't restrictions on the beaches in Spain. You should avoid putting your awnings out, setting your tables and chairs up and turning it into a campsite, because that's what's frowned upon.
Yeah, that's when you kind of get moved on, especially with A lot of people have been moved on as well that we've spoken to out here, where they've put ramps up. We've managed to sort of, sometimes we're on a little bit of a tilt, aren't we? But we just make do. It's only for a night normally that we stay in places like that. And a lot of the time, if you put them out, then it's a sign that you are camping and you are sleeping in the vehicle, so then you get moved on.
So as far as our services go, we have a 100 litre freshwater tank and a 70 litre wastewater tank. That tends to last around about 4 days, and that includes a shower for each of us, plenty of washing up, drinks for the dog, cups of teas. We buy bottled water for drinking. We don't really drink out the tank. An essential item which you'll need to bring with you is a hose with different hose attachments. So far we've only used the standard one that twists on with a thread, but we have got a selection because we've seen some taps which isn't a threaded tap, and you'd have to use the different connector, but luckily so far we've only used the ones with the threaded connectors.
Someone else has asked if we've used our diesel heater out here. We have used it a couple of times in Spain, didn't we, towards Christmas time, but since the months have gone on, we haven't used it since, have we? It's been lovely. It's been lovely weather actually the whole way through.
Back at home in England, we didn't turn it off. It was literally on non-stop. But yeah, since we've been here, apart from a couple of times when we first got here, we haven't had to use it at all.
So another question we've got asked is about the gas.
And we've already done a video on the gas, so I'll put the link in the description. But what we will say is make sure that you get the European adapters so that you can use them at the service stations to fill your gas, either your tanks up or your bottles or however you do it.
But there's a video on it that we've done completely just for the gas, haven't we? So we'll put that in the description.
Yeah, they've come in really handy. And in Spain, there's a lot of LPG garages in Spain, so you won't be short of a garage to refill your tank from. In Portugal, there's not quite as many, I don't think. Also in Spain, they don't mind you just refilling the bottle either. In fact, they even come out and refill it for you. I don't think they're like that in France because there's a few stickers saying no refilling canisters, but in Spain, they'll literally do it for you.
And that can also be found on the Park for Night. You can find out where the LPG is refillable from.
Park for Night's a lifesaver, so if you haven't got it, download it.
The next topic we're going to go on to is driving abroad. So through the borders from France, obviously there's a border because you're coming over from ferry. But as soon as we hit France and we drove down from France to Spain, then Spain to Portugal, there has been no borders. We have not been checked, have we, at all?
Not at all.
So yeah, that was one good thing.
The cost of diesel, I can't even remember what it was in France. We just drove through France quick to chase the sun in Spain, but in Spain it's quite cheap. So if you can hold out to filling up until Spain, definitely do it. I think it averages around €1.33 a litre in Spain, so not much over £1 a litre. We're now in Portugal and it's a lot more expensive. The cheapest we found in Portugal is €1.77, so 150-ish, something like that, similar to back at home. So yeah, definitely, if you're going to be filling up, make sure you fill up in Spain.
The toll roads in Spain is quite easy to do. We didn't really use a lot of them, really, did we?
Not really. No, sometimes we did. If we wanted to get somewhere fairly fast, we would, but a majority of our driving has been avoiding tolls, so we haven't spent too much on tolls at all. And it's a lot more scenic routes as well when you avoid tolls.
Yeah. So basically on the Spanish toll roads, you just get your ticket, basically like France. You go to the end, then you pay for how much you've used. In Portugal, however, it is different. You can register before you come on their website, or you can go 48 hours after you've drove on the toll road. You can then go to the post office and pay for what you've used, and I think that has to be done within like 15 days of you going on the road after 48 hours. So yeah, it's a lot more complicated.
Driving on the right hand side of the road is surprisingly easy. So if you've never done it before, don't be worried about it. In fact, we're actually preferring driving on the right than we do at home on the left.
I think because we've got a right-hand drive vehicle, that it makes it a lot easier. When we've hired cars in the past and been on the left but driving on the right, you just don't like it, do you?
No, it's quite confusing, especially for the first few days. But when you're in your own vehicle, driving on the right is really not a problem. So don't let that put you off travelling Europe.
Someone asked about snow chains from when we were going through the mountains of France into Spain. We didn't, because we were in such a rush to get from the UK over to France, we didn't actually get snow chains.
But we've got BFG Goodrich or whatever they are, all-terrain tyres, and they are winter rated. Luckily, we haven't seen no snow, apart from the Sierra Nevada actually, but the roads were super clear there anyway. So apart from the snow chains, it's just the essential things that you have to take for Europe. Things like a triangle to put out if you break down, a high vis, I think there's a breathalyzer, yeah. A couple of other bits, but we bought a European pack on the ferry, so that's the easiest way to do it. It's just got everything in there that we need. It gets thrown under the seat, and hopefully we'll never need it. And
the UK sticker is now changed. Obviously it used to be GB, now it's UK, so that's the new one.
Oh, and the headlamp diverter sticker things, also stuck them on. Probably not in the right position, but
they're on.
Yeah, they're on there.
Mechanics, we have had to use the mechanics being out here.
And they're a lot cheaper than back at home as well, so don't be worried about that either. At home, on the MOT advisory, our brake lines were an advisory for corrosion, but we thought we'd risk it, see what happens. But after all the mountain driving that we'd done, they did actually corrode through and start leaking. So we quickly got booked in with a mechanic. At home, we was quoted, I think it was near on 300 or 400 quid or something. But we found this mechanic in, where was he?
Near Aguelas, I think.
Near Aguelas, yeah.
And he was actually an English mechanic.
And it was 100 euros, so about 80 quid. And he remade the brake lines for that. I think a lot, especially in Spain, we don't know about other places yet, but in Spain, car repairs are certainly a lot cheaper.
The next one is pets. So obviously we brought Luna over. She had her AHC certificate to come over here, but it only lasts 4 months. So if you're traveling for any longer amount of time, you might want to get a European passport. I would suggest even getting a European passport because it's cheaper anyway, and you won't have to then get your AHC certificate again. So we went to a Spanish vet. We actually went to a couple because we were driving down. So we've been to one in Aguelas, and I'll try and find the number of it because they were really helpful, and we'll put that in the description. I think it was about 50 euros. She had her rabies vaccination for that and the passport, and she didn't need to have or we didn't need to have a Spanish residency or Spanish address to get it. One thing I would say is a lot of the time I would ring up and ask if they speak English on the phone to try and get an appointment, and they will always say no, they don't speak English, because it's easier for them to just they just can't be bothered, because they find it harder to deal with us being in a vet's. So one thing I will say is if you can't speak any Spanish, or wherever you are, just to go to the vets and try and speak to them there, because then they will converse with you. It makes life a lot easier. And then we went to another one in Huelva, which is only if you're traveling to Morocco or Turkey, that are high rabies countries, which she then had her rabies blood test. It's basically to see how many antibodies that she has in her, and then they give you a certificate. The certificate is just there for if you're going into a rabies country, and yeah, basically to get across the border. But you only need them for Morocco and Turkey.
As far as how our pets are coping with the heat, so far it's not been too bad. We've only had temperatures up to about 23's been the highest. But with the max air fan on in the van, it's surprisingly cool in there. We leave the blinds shut, we put our sun deflectors up on the windscreen, leave the fan on max, and
just leave the windows open just a slight little bit, just to get a bit of ventilation.
yeah, having wind deflectors helps with that, because no one can see that your windows are cracked open a little bit, so that does help quite a lot when the max air fan's blasting through. So yeah, so far so good with the heat, no problems whatsoever.
But we'll do another one once we're in Greece and that in the summer, and it might
Yeah.
be completely different.
No doubt that will change, but we've got a few things in line to keep them nice and cool. Mainly blasting her with a hose. No, we'll be throwing her in the sea. She loves to swim anyway. She's a right water baby. So we're not too concerned about the heat. Wherever you are, there's even wild dogs which are used to the weather, so they will soon get used to it.
So a lot of the questions that gets asked over the Facebook groups and on our page is about SIM cards. So before we left, we had a Smarty SIM for the boys mainly to go in our Wi-Fi box, and it was unlimited for £20. But as soon as you hit France, it then drops down to 12 gigabytes. So it's absolutely naffle.
And having two young boys who love to play Fortnite on their Switches,
It's not the one.
they rinse through it. They play a lot less since we've been here, I must admit. We only let them have an hour of an evening, but you'll be surprised how fast it does go, especially uploading YouTube videos and everything as well.
Our Tesco phones that we've got from back at home, we top them up for like £15, I think it is, and we get 100 gig. So ideally, I think that would be the better option if you can go and get something like that before you come. But if you're already out here, then the ones that we've been looking at mainly are Vodafone, which is normally €20 for 30 gig, and then you get an extra 35 gig free.
I think they just do different deals, at different times they have different deals. Vodafone's good because they always have signal, same as Orange. We've paid varying amounts for prepaid data SIM cards. If we're stuck, we've paid even £10 for 10 gig, up to our most recent, which was €30 for unlimited for 30 days, which is the best deal we've had.
Yeah.
But usually you're looking at about €20 for 30 to 50 gigs, something like that.
Yeah.
They all vary, so yeah, it's best to look around. But like I say, Vodafone normally do the best deals.
And also in Spain, you have to have your passport on you to go and get the SIM cards. It hasn't been in Portugal, it's been absolutely fine, but you have to be registered to own that SIM card, so you have to take your passport with you.
And we still don't remember. Every single time we go and get a SIM card, we always forget the passport. So it's a walk back to Kev, get the passport, walk back to the shop, get the SIM card and back again. But the shops where you get them from are like little post offices and stuff like that.
Yeah, tobacconists sometimes, or you're better off really going into the Vodafone and an Orange shop. That's where you get the better deals. But I think in France you have to go to like tobacconists. We didn't really have much joy in France actually getting the data SIM. That is the main reason why we went straight to Spain as well, weren't it? We just wanted to drive through so that we could get some signal and be able to do stuff on it.
Yeah, we had a lot to sort out, so we needed the data at the time. So the next point we're going to go on to is supermarkets. There's loads out here. There's Aldi, there's Lidl, Intermarché,
Carrefour's in Spain.
Carrefour's. We like what are they called? Mercadonas. We find they're one of the cheapest. They have pretty much everything you need. Well, I say everything you need. Not
anything English.
Not
in
stuff that
Mercadona.
you're used to back at home. But nor does Lidl or Aldi. It's quite hard to find stuff that you want from back at home. Like,
if you want stuff from back at home, you need to go to like Intermarché and Carrefour's. They're the bigger supermarkets, but then they're a lot more expensive. So we always used to go to the Mercadonas because they were a lot cheaper, and we'd trying to do everything on a budget.
The parking in the supermarkets, there's always loads of room. There's always loads of room in the supermarkets, so they're easy days to go and do. What we tend to do is do all of our service days for the van, emptying our tanks, filling the water up, and also go shopping. We tend to do it all on the same day.
And do the laundry. It's like you may as well just strike the whole day off, because it takes forever to do everything when you do a day like that.
It does. But when you're travelling, you've got all the time in the world anyway, so it's not the end of the world.
The next point is COVID. So to get out here, we had double jabs. We had to have our antigen test to get over to France. I think it's now changed. Not sure. It might have not. I don't know. And then when we crossed over from France to Spain, nothing, because there was no border. Same for Spain and Portugal, no border.
France was super strict on the COVID situation. All restaurants, you have to show your vaccine pass, masks everywhere. France was very, very strict. Spain's fairly strict. We haven't had to show our COVID pass too many times. But they do wear masks a lot more in Spain, especially just out in the streets as well, which we don't really see a lot of that too much. So yeah, but I don't think it's law though. Maybe in the main towns and bits and pieces, but we've had no problems. We just wear them when everyone else is, really.
And also children over the age of 5 have to wear masks out here. Into the supermarkets, you won't be allowed in without them. And then our last point is world schooling. So we've touched a little bit in our last few vlogs. We basically homeschool the children from the van. We do some educational stuff in the van, and which is basically their maths and their English, a little bit of science, and then the rest of the time we just do things that they want to look at, things that they want to learn. When we're going to a museum, they're obviously learning. They're learning the culture. They've learned a lot of Spanish. Language. Yeah.
Especially our oldest, Frankie. He's doing really well with his Spanish.
So that's about it for our Q&A. If you've got any other questions, then feel free to drop them in the comments.
We are going to do a budgeting video as well at some point, but we're still trying to budget ourselves, to tell you the truth. It's not easy. Going from back at home when you're working and you've got money coming in so you can spend money. And we did used to spend money as well. So getting out of that habit hasn't been easy. It's getting there. We're getting better and we're starting to budget quite well. But once our budget is a bit more settled, if you like, we're going to do a bit of a budget video. So hopefully that may help a few people out.
So our next vlog, we will be in...
We got 2 weeks worth of vlogs in Portugal coming up. As soon as we get all of our footage back from the repair shop, which should be in a couple of days, we're going to be getting on with editing those. So Portugal's lovely, so you're not going to want to miss them. Also, if you want to see any of our other vlogs throughout Spain, I think we've done about 9 videos now, so there's plenty to get stuck into.
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
And if you're thinking about it, do it. Get out to Europe.
Definitely do it. You only live once.
You will not regret it. It's been the best decision we've made, so 100% do it.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.